Now, place one of your Skylanders on the Portal of Power.
Fear the spear!
Well done, Portal Master.
What is Skylanders? Skylanders is a series of Toys to Life video games that ran from 2011 through 2016, in which you use actual toy figures to play as characters in the game. What do you need to play it? We'll look at each of these requirements in more detail a little later in this video, but to play Skylanders at a minimum, you need one of the following game consoles, at least one Skylanders game for your chosen console, a Portal of Power accessory that works for your console and your chosen game, and at least one Skylander character figure compatible with your game. How do you get Skylanders figures, games, and portals? Since Skylanders are long gone from store shelves, online sites like eBay are your best bet these days. Search for Skylanders Lot and look carefully to find the best deals. As a new player, ideally you want to try to find a good number of Skylanders sold in bulk for a low price, somewhere in the range of $1 to $3 per figure on average. Try to find a listing that has no duplicate figures if you can, or at least a small number if it is a larger lot. If you can, try to find listings that come with at least one game and its associated Portal of Power in addition to Skylanders figures, so you can get started playing right away. As an alternative option, the excellent Skylanders resource site, SkylandersCharacterList.com, sometimes offers random lots geared towards new players starting their collection, and their shop is a great way to start getting figures, or to buy a specific portal or game in the series. You can also look locally at thrift stores, pawn shops, yard sales, flea markets, or online via sites like Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace to find people selling figures near you. How many Skylanders games are there? There are 6 main games in the series. They are all standalone games with their own stories, so you could play them in any order. But if you want to play them in sequence, the order that the games were released is Skylanders Spyro's Adventure in 2011, Skylanders Giants in 2012, Skylanders Swap Force in 2013, Skylanders Traptanium in 2014, Skylanders SuperChargers in 2015, and finally Skylanders Imaginators in 2016. But not all consoles have every game, so let's discuss the availability on each game system next. The PlayStation 3 is one of my recommended ways to play Skylanders, because all 6 games are available for this console, and all are in HD. Not only that, but the copies of the games are still fairly affordable in the used market compared to some others. So if you have or can get a PlayStation 3 console, that's an excellent choice to be able to fully experience and enjoy Skylanders. The Nintendo Wii U is my other recommended way to play the games. 5 out of the 6 games in the series were made specifically for it and are playable in HD quality. And it was backwards compatible with the Wii version of the first game, Spyro's Adventure, as long as you have a Wii remote and nunchuck controller set to play it with. So the Wii U can technically play all 6 games in the franchise too. It's also the best console to play the 5th game in the series, Skylanders SuperChargers, because it has 2 exclusive character figures and vehicle figures that you can only use on Nintendo consoles, Turbocharged Donkey Kong and Hammer Slam Bowser. Another good reason to choose the Wii U console is because the games are still very affordable in the used market for this system, and availability is usually plentiful. If you don't have either of those options available to you, then my runner-up choice and final recommended way to play is via the Xbox 360 console. Like the PlayStation 3, the Xbox 360 has all 6 games available on it in HD quality. However, the Xbox 360 Portals of Power accessories have compatibility restrictions compared to other consoles. So if you go with this option, you have to make sure you get an Xbox 360 specific Portal of Power. Otherwise, it will not work. If you don't mind playing in standard definition visuals instead of HD quality, then the original Wii console is a good way to play a number of the games. It has full versions of the first 4 games in the series, and it technically also has the 5th entry, but it's only the kart racing portion of the game, so it lacks the majority of the main content. To make this more clear, the game name changed to Skylanders SuperChargers Racing on the Wii console, letting players know that they are not getting the full Skylanders experience. If you'd rather play it on a newer console, the PlayStation 4 can be a decent option. It does not have the first 2 games in the series, but the other 4 games are available for it. However, the prices of the games have gone up quite high in the used market, so you'll probably vastly overpay to get them on the PlayStation 4 than you would on the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, or Wii U consoles. Similarly, the Xbox One console also has the last 4 of the 6 games available for it, but is missing a way to play Spyro's Adventure and Giants. While most of the games are more affordable to get here than their PlayStation 4 counterparts, they are still higher priced in the used market than the PlayStation 3, Wii U, or Xbox 360 versions. The Xbox One has the same problem with Portal of Power accessories that the Xbox 360 does. So you have to make sure you get an Xbox One specific Portal of Power in order to play. Not even an Xbox 360 Portal is compatible with Xbox One, or vice versa, unfortunately. Finally, the least recommended way to play Skylanders games is on the Nintendo Switch system. If you have access to that console and game, then by all means enjoy it. It has a distinct advantage of not requiring a Portal of Power accessory at all, and instead you use the NFC chip reader found in the Nintendo Switch's Joy-Con controllers to scan in your Skylander figures and play as the characters. But this is my least recommended way to play Skylanders for 2 major reasons. First, the console only has the final game in the series, Skylanders Imaginators, with no way to play the other 5 games. And second, the cost of the Switch version of the game on the used market is outrageous. There were clearly not enough copies of the game created to meet demand, and the price has skyrocketed in the used market, considerably higher than even the most expensive of the PlayStation 4 releases. To put it into perspective, you could easily buy an entire Wii U console with controller, cords, and everything you needed to play numerous games for the same price that it costs for the Switch version of Skylanders Imaginators Online. A used PlayStation 3 or Wii console would cost you even less than that to buy in today's market. Unless you are an extreme collector or are desperate to get the Switch version of Skylanders Imaginators specifically, your money is much better spent on Skylanders games, portals, figures, and even entire consoles to play the games on instead. While the bulk of this video guide is focused on the main console games, it's worth noting that the first 2 games on the Nintendo 3DS handheld system are completely different than their console brethren, despite sharing the Spyro's Adventure and Giants names. So for players looking to get 100% of the Skylanders experience, who also happen to have a Nintendo 3DS system, you can track down the 3DS versions of the first 2 games. You'll also need a specific Portal of Power accessory for use on the handheld system, as none of the console portals are compatible with it. Unfortunately though, like many other consoles, the 3DS does not have every game in the series on it, so to play all 6 games, you will need to have another way to play the console versions of Spyro's Adventure and Giants, as well as SuperChargers and Imaginators. The 3DS did have a release of SuperChargers, but like the original Wii console, it was only the Skylanders SuperChargers Racing version, not the full game experience. There were also a number of spin-off games on mobile in the past, and even some of the main games had versions you could play on tablets with a special portal, but they have all been discontinued years ago at this point, and no longer work on modern devices, so your best bet for playing today is on older consoles. Portal of Power accessories and compatibility. We touched on this briefly in the previous section of the video, but each game has its own Portal of Power accessory that you need to place your Skylanders figures on in order to play. There are a few rules to follow to make sure you have everything you need to play all 6 games in the series. So let's take a closer look. First of all, as mentioned previously, Xbox 360 and Xbox One consoles have their own exclusive versions of the Portals of Power accessories. If you intend to play Skylanders games on these consoles, you will need to have a Portal of Power specifically for your console. So how can you tell what Portal of Power accessory you have? One way to know is to view the writing on the underside of the Portal of Power accessory. You will see a name listed, either on a sticker or etched into the plastic. It may have a name like Traptanium Portal or Wireless Portal of Power for PlayStation 3 as some examples of what you might see. It may also just say Portal of Power with nothing more descriptive too. If you have a portal that says something like that on it, these types are all interchangeable between PlayStation 4, PlayStation 3, Nintendo Wii, and Nintendo Wii U consoles. So if you are playing on any of those consoles, your portal should be compatible with your chosen game system. To play on an Xbox 360, it needs to specifically say Xbox 360 on the portal, and likewise for the Xbox One console. These portals are not compatible with other consoles, not even between Xbox consoles, strangely. The other thing you have to consider is that not all Portals of Power are made equal. Depending on what Portal of Power you have, some games in the series may not be compatible with it. So let's look at each game's individual portal to help you identify what portal you have and what games it will be compatible with in the series. The first Skylanders game, Spyro's Adventure, was the only console entry that had a wireless, full-size Portal of Power. Handheld and mobile versions had wireless portals as well, but they were half-size and looked quite different. This original wireless portal featured a small USB adapter that you plug into the console, which was stored inside of the battery compartment. It requires 3 AA batteries to power the portal. The small USB adapter often goes missing in used market resales, so if you are looking to get a used wireless Portal of Power from the first game, make sure it includes the USB adapter too, or else it will not work correctly. What's even worse is that the Spyro's Adventure portal is tied for the least compatible portal in the series. It only works with the first 2 games, Spyro's Adventure and Giants. Because of the lack of compatibility with later games, the connection instability issues while playing, battery requirements, and ease of losing the wireless portal USB adapter, I'd recommend this portal least of all. With the second game, Skylanders Giants, because of numerous issues with the original wireless portal, including frequent disconnection during play, they released a wired USB version of it instead that was much more stable during gameplay. Wired USB portals would be used for the remainder of the games in the series too. The Giants portal looks almost the same as the Spyro's Adventure portal, except it has a USB cable for one thing, and the thin plastic piece on the bottom of it is clear rather than green. Instead of having white colored glyphs on the sides of the portal, they are also darker color on the Giants portal to help set it apart visually. Unfortunately though, the Giants portal isn't very compatible with other games in the series either. It only works for the first 2 games. But it is the preferred way to play the original Spyro's Adventure game instead of using the original wireless portal if those are your only choices. The third game changed things a bit. Skylanders Swap Force had an all-new style of portal that was about half the height of the previous games, and it works for all 3 games in the series up till that point. It features a stone archway motif, which also sets it visually apart from its predecessors. Importantly, this is also the point in the series when Portal of Power compatibility with future games opened up a lot more. Not only can you play the first 3 games with this portal, but you can also play the 5th and 6th game with the portal from Swap Force 2. So it's an excellent portal to have available compared to the ones from the first 2 games. If you want to get just one portal that works for every game in the series, then the Portal of Power that came with the 4th game, Skylanders Traptanium, is the one that you want. Stubbornly, it is the only Portal of Power that will work with Traptanium, as its unique features were exclusively utilized in that game. Visually, it's a radical departure from the previous game's portals. The base is clear plastic instead of white, and resembles cracked glass in its appearance. It has a white plastic outer ring with pedestals that hold the portal flat, and a golden-colored jail cell door on the front protrusion. There is also a hexagonal-shaped slot where you insert the new Traptanium trap figures that debuted in the 4th game. The Traptanium Portal is compatible with all previous and later games in the series, as well as being the only portal that works with Trap Team in particular. So, because of that accessibility, this is usually the most expensive of the portals to find in the used market today. Most players will want access to this one, since you can't play the 4th game in the series without it, and it's also very convenient having just a single portal that works with everything, too. The portal that came with the 5th game in the series, Skylanders SuperChargers, looks visually distinct with its blue and black color scheme, and it features that game's engine motif that's also found on its respective character figures. It is the flattest of all the portals, and has the largest surface area for placing your figures. This was needed to accommodate the game's new vehicle figures, as you would be placing multiple Skylanders on the portal at the same time. This is the only other portal of power to also feature the Traptanium trap slot, enabling you to use those figures as well. Since it is compatible with every game in the series except for Trap Team, and it's the only other one to feature the Traptanium trap slot, and it also has enough space to more comfortably place multiple Skylanders figures on it, this is the second most sought-after portal of power that will serve players extremely well for every game in the series besides Trap Team. Finally, the last game in the series, Skylanders Imaginators, actually reused the same portal from the 3rd game, Skylanders Swap Force. This actually makes it slightly less ideal than either the Trap Team portal or the SuperChargers Portal, which both feature the Traptanium trap slot for further compatibility with those figures, and more space to place multiple Skylanders. But setting that aside, it also meant that players didn't have yet another new exclusive portal to worry about, and the Imaginators Portal will still work just fine with 5 out of the 6 games in the series as well, just like the Swap Force Portal does. So it's not a bad choice at all if that's the only portal power you have available. If you're still not sure about your portal compatibility, even after all this, maybe the sticker is worn off and you can't read it well to know if it's going to work or not, the surefire way to test if your portal will work for your console and your game specifically is to plug it in and try playing the game with it. If something isn't right, the game will notify you with an error message saying that your portal is not compatible. Otherwise, if you don't see an error message, you should be good to start playing. Skylanders figures, identification, and compatibility. New Skylanders figures were released with each game, and often characters from previous games got a new figure too. With so many games and figures across the entire series, it's helpful to know how to identify a Skylanders figure. In general, something they all have in common is that you can look on the underside of the figure's base, and you will see the Activision logo and information etched into the plastic of the figure. Most of the character figures will also have their element symbol located on the underside as well. This can help you distinguish a Skylanders figure in general from, say, an Amiibo figure or a figure from another Toys to Life game like LEGO Dimensions or Disney Infinity. For Skylanders figures from the first 4 games in the series, they all carried a distinct color on the underside of their figure as well. This color designates the game the figure comes from. Figures from the first game, Spyro's Adventure, all have a bright green, semi-transparent plastic layer on their undersides. For the second game, Giants, the color is bright orange. Swap Force, the 3rd game in the series, had a blue-colored underside for its figures, and Trap Team had a red-colored underside. Trap Team also had new Traptanium trap figures that were much smaller than a typical Skylanders character figure and did not follow the usual pattern. Instead, they all have a hexagonal-shaped protrusion on the end of them, which you insert into the Traptanium portal's matching slot in order to use the trap figure. These trap figures are all a single color, similar to the underside of the character figures, with semi-transparent plastic throughout. But their colors instead correspond to the game's respective elements, and their element symbol is featured on the front. The fifth game took a departure from this pattern, and instead all character figures are standing atop a base with an engine motif, which also has their element symbol on the front of it. The engine may be in a variety of colors depending on the character figure, but it matches the general appearance of the one that is on the SuperChargers Portal of Power. There are no semi-transparent undersides on these figures like the first 4 games had. SuperChargers also has a number of vehicle figures in addition to the characters, and these do not have common visual aspects at all. They are the most easy to mistake for some other fantasy-themed toy at a glance. The best way to determine if you are looking at a Skylanders vehicle figure is to carefully search its underside for the Activision logo and element symbol that are etched into the figure. Additionally, there are 4 special trophy figures that were also released for Skylanders SuperChargers that do not have the engine bases. These figures unlock additional tracks to race on in the game's racing-focused content, and they all feature a villain's face from past games, as well as a trophy cup motif. The final game in the series, Skylanders Imaginators, had all new figures and a completely different look to them as well. They featured elongated, octagonal bases that were larger in size than most previous Skylanders figures, with colors that represent their elements on the sides, and black on the underside and top side of the base. They also feature a small symbol on the front side of the base that represents the character's battle class. Imaginators had the widest variety of figures with bases that deviate from the norm. The most prominent of these are the Creation Crystal figures that you use to create and play as the game's Imaginator Skylanders. Creation Crystals are mostly clear plastic tubes with a colored plastic gem in the middle that lights up when you place it on the Portal of Power while playing. Their colors coordinate with the respective elements, and their element symbols are shown on the front side near the base. They come in a variety of different visual styles, but are functionally the same within their respective element, similar to the various Traptanium trap figures from Skylanders Trap Team. Aside from creation crystals, there are also the Imaginite mystery chests, which look like a treasure chest and come in one of 4 colors: bronze, silver, gold, and metallic blue. Finally, there are 2 expansion pack figures that add new levels you can play in Skylanders Imaginators that also do not have the octagonal bases. They are the Griffin Park Observatory and the Enchanted Elven Forest. With these figures, you can use the same method as you did with the Skylanders SuperChargers vehicles to determine if they are Skylanders figures or not. Some will not have element symbols though, so look for the Activision logo and information primarily. If you happen to find a character figure with a golden-colored platform it is standing on, and the underside is a clear plastic with a white base behind that, in a similar style as the figures from the first 4 games, this is likely one of the 14 special Eons Elite figures. These figures often have a sparkling metallic or glitter sheen to parts of them, a unique pose, or some other distinguishing feature that also helps to set them apart from their other figures. Unlike normal figures that level up as you play the game, Eon's Elite figures are permanently at maximum level, even if you reset them, and they are compatible with every game in the series. They also have some special features when used in games 4, 5, and 6 as an added bonus. So with all that information, you should be able to identify any kind of Skylanders figure, and in most cases determine the specific game it originated from. Next, let's talk about Skylanders figure compatibility between games. First of all, unlike the Portals of Power accessories, Skylanders figures are universal and are not locked to any specific console, with the exception of exactly 2 figures, Turbocharged Donkey Kong and Hammer Slam Bowser from Skylanders SuperChargers. These 2 figures only work on Nintendo consoles, and were the only such ones to be restricted in this manner. Also, it is worth noting that there are no region restrictions on Skylanders figures, so you can import them from other countries online and they will work fine. As a rule of thumb, all Skylanders figures work with games that came later in the series. So any Skylanders figure from the first game, Spyro's Adventure, will work in every game in the series. Any Swap Force Skylander figure will work in Swap Force and later games. In some cases, the functionality of the figures depreciates over time, however. For example, the 4 Adventure Pack figures from the original Spyro's Adventure game, Dragon's Peak, Darklight Crypt, Pirate Seas, and Empire of Ice, add extra levels you can play in both Spyro's Adventure and Giants games. However, when using them in Swap Force and later games, they simply function like magic items, dealing damage to enemies that are on the screen, rather than unlocking new levels to play. Another example of this is the Traptanium trap figures from Skylanders Trap Team. In that game, you could use the traps to capture enemies and play as them for brief periods during your adventure. But when you use them in SuperChargers or Imaginators, they only give you stat boosts during racing content or provide gold for your character, no longer allowing you to play as trapped villain characters. If your figure is from one of the first 4 games in the series, you may be able to use it in earlier games than when it was released. It just depends on when that character made their debut. The first time a character figure is released, it is known as their Series 1 figure. This determines what games their figures from the first 4 games can work with. For example, Tidal Wave Gilgrunt is a Series 4 figure from Skylanders Trap Team. This means that it is the 4th distinct figure that the character Gilgrunt has received. In other words, there was a new figure for Gilgrunt in every game up to that point. Gilgrunt's Series 1 figure was released during the first game, Spyro's Adventure. So even though your Tidal Wave Gilgrunt figure is from Trap Team, it will work in all games from Gilgrunt's Series 1 debut onwards. So all 6 games in this case. What this means is that you don't need all 4 copies of Gilgrunt's figures from Spyro's Adventure, Giants, Swap Force, and Trap Team in order to play as that character. You just need any one of those figures, and you can play as Gilgrunt in all 4 games, even if you only have the newest version that was released for Trap Team, as compatibility goes from the character's Series 1 release forward. So how does a new player know the series number of their figure, or what games were the character's Series 1 debut? The easiest way is probably to look it up online, in which case I highly recommend websites like SkylandersCharacterList.com or the wiki pages on fandom. They have a wealth of information and pictures to help you identify your specific figure, as well as the character's Series 1 debut. From the 5th game onwards, though, things changed in this regard. All figures from the first 4 games are still compatible, but none of the figures from the 5th and 6th games are usable in the first 4. Even though many of the characters on Skylanders SuperChargers figures are familiar faces from the previous games, they have been completely redesigned in terms of their skills and playability, so they are not the same as the past versions of their figures. So SuperChargers figures only work in SuperChargers and Imaginators games, and that's it. Imaginators took this even further, and not only are its figures not compatible with past games at all, but there are no repeated character figures from the earlier games here like there were in SuperChargers. All Skylanders figures will work in the final Imaginators game, which means it is technically the most compatible game of all. But on the other hand, none of its figures will work in any of the previous games, which means Imaginator figures in particular offer the least gameplay value out of all figures, because they only work in 1 out of the 6 games. Finally, to conclude, if this all felt way too overwhelming or difficult to remember, the simplest way to figure out if your figure is compatible with your game is to just try using it while you are playing. If you place a figure on the Portal of Power that isn't compatible with the game you are currently playing, the game will let you know with an error message, and will ask you to use a different Skylander instead. And I think that about covers everything you need to know as a new player to Skylanders. With all this information provided here, I hope it will get you started with enjoying the games and help you to avoid some common pitfalls that new players might fall into. Even though the games are quite dated now, they are remembered fondly by those who got to enjoy them in their prime, but even over a decade later, new players can still find some enjoyment in these unique games from the past, and it just might give you a reason to dust off your old console and have some fun with it again. If you have any suggestions for future content, feel free to leave a comment, and if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and consider subscribing to my channel to receive notifications when future videos are released. Thank you for watching this video all the way through. Until next time.